truth about the Taijimen case. Taiwan Supreme Court found Taijimen not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Taijimen. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the offending authority's conscience? Where are justice and human rights? What is the truth about the Taijimen case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Taijimen not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Taijimen. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the offending authority's conscience? Where are justice and human rights? The righteous people are united with conscience to defend justice, human rights, and peace. The righteous people are united with conscience to defend justice, human rights, and peace.
In Taiwan, we at Bitter Winter saw at work Taliban of the National Tax Bureau or Taliban of the Administrative Enforcement Agency, 55-year-long persecution of a peaceful spiritual movement in a democratic country such as Taiwan. The Taijimen case is internationally exemplary and important, and yes, we plan to continue our campaign about it. Our voice will not be silenced until the voice of justice will speak and solve the case.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, and welcome to join today's seminar of Administrative Violence and the Taijimen case. This current seminar is the third one of a relay of the four seminars that started since very early this morning. It is especially appropriate to hold these seminars today as we address to the International Day commemorating the victims of acts of violence based on religion or belief on August 22nd, designated by the UN General Assembly. Freedom of religion or belief is enshrined in Articles 18, 19, and 20 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Upholding this right plays an important role in the fight against all forms of intolerance and of discrimination based on religion or belief, especially in the case that the source of violence comes from the government. Without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker, Dr. Katrina Lantos-Sweat, who serves as chair of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. She's also the president of the Lantos Foundation for Human Rights and Justice. Let's welcome.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Katrina Lantos-Sweat, and I'm so pleased to be able to join you for this important online conference. I had the privilege of serving as the chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. And most recently, I was honored to join Ambassador Sam Brownback as the co-chair of the Earth Summit 2021, which took place in July in Washington, D.C., with over 1,000 participants from around the world. Those of us who have been engaged in the cause of religious freedom for many years welcome this opportunity to address an issue that is near and dear to our hearts on this International Day commemorating victims of acts of violence based on religion or belief. It is particularly appropriate that we should be meeting right now as the world watches with great alarm the unfolding takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban. The violence and brutality that characterized Taliban rule in the past is a powerful reminder to us all that freedom of religion and conscience is a fundamental human right, one that respects the individual autonomy and freedom of each one of us. Those who seek to impose their beliefs on others through violence or intimidation are enemies of religious freedom, and we must have the courage and determination to stand up to them. When the world adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, they included among the inviolable rights that all humans are entitled to the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Despite the clear, broad, and inclusive language of Article 18, as we look around the world, we see grave violations of religious freedom that affect billions of people across the globe. The very worst abuses typically take place in dictatorships, whether they be religious theocracies like Iran and now Afghanistan, which demand adherence to their prescribed beliefs, or aggressively atheistic governments like the communist governments in China and North Korea. In these circumstances, we see the wholesale repression and persecution of religious communities and individuals, often involving violence, imprisonment, and even death. These circumstances should outrage the conscience of the world, and clearly much more must be done to confront these countries and hold them to account for their violation of international law. But what is also deeply concerning is that sometimes serious religious freedom abuses take place in countries that we identify as democratic and rights-based. Pakistan and India are both democracies, but in each of these countries we see grave and ongoing violations of freedom of religion, conscience, and belief. Pakistan targets its Ahmadiyya community for overt discrimination and persecution, and its aggressive application of its anti-blasphemy laws places Pakistan in the embarrassing position of having more people on death row for the phony crime of blasphemy than any other country. India, the largest democracy in the world by population, has seen a drastic downward trend in religious freedom conditions, according to the most recent report of USCIRF. There is widespread harassment and violence directed at religious minorities, and nationalist BJP-led government officials have proven themselves unwilling or incapable of confronting this challenge. Even countries that have been shining examples of robust and vibrant democratic rule have failed in some notable instances to fully protect the conscience rights of their citizens. There were grave concerns expressed during the height of the COVID pandemic about scapegoating of some religious communities in South Korea. And in Taiwan, the long-running attack against the Taiji Men community by bureaucratic despots within the tax administration have led many religious freedom experts around the world to condemn this form of administrative religious persecution. To their everlasting credit, so many of the communities that have been unfairly targeted and attacked have found within their faith the strength not to return evil with evil, but have sought to remain an influence for goodness, forgiveness, brotherhood, and virtue within their communities. I am full of admiration for those who have the strength to live out their ideals even in the face of terrible injustice, and I hope to learn from their inspiring example. The defense of religious freedom is vital not only because it protects the individual dignity and conscience of our fellow human beings, but because societies that protect this basic right are societies that will also protect the other precious human rights we all cherish. I'd like to close by sharing a story that I think illustrates this point. In the 1300s, the theologian, writer, and priest John Wycliffe believed he was called by God to translate the Bible from the Latin Vulgate into the common vernacular that ordinary men and women could read and understand. He undertook this task despite the determined opposition of the ecclesiastical authorities of his day and in the face of grave persecution. Despite all, he persisted, and when he was done, he wrote the following words in the flyleaf of that first Bible. I quote, "The translation is complete and shall make possible government of the people, by the people, and for the people." What a remarkable thing to write. Words that were echoed centuries later by Abraham Lincoln in his immortal Gettysburg Address. I believe Wycliffe meant by those words that when men and women are free to seek and find truth for themselves, they become empowered to build societies that honor and defend the conscience and civil rights of all people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lanto-Sweat. It's not easy to get the international community's attention to religious violations in the global identified democratic and rights-based countries, as you mentioned, such as Pakistan, India, and especially the Taijiman unjust case in Taiwan. What drew the world's attention on this case is what you mentioned about the Taijiman community's approach to redressing justice for their group, that they are trying to influence the government officials who made mistakes with the Taijiman group's virtue and conscience. And that is a very honorable act. I would like to quote what you said about the translator, John Wycliffe, at the end of his translation. Well, the mission, I wish one day, I'm hoping that one day we get to say, our mission for justice complete and shall make possible government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Next, a video that gives a quick outline of the Taijiman case. Taijiman returned to Washington, D.C., calling for action. Let's take a look.
21 years ago, Taijiman Qigong Academy visited Washington, D.C. as ambassadors of peace and goodwill.
The Mayor of the District of Columbia does hereby proclaim March 22nd, 2000 as Taijiman Qigong Academy Day in Washington, D.C., and we welcome these international ambassadors of peace and goodwill.
21 years later, members of Taijiman Qigong Academy returned to Washington, D.C. to seek justice and raise international awareness of their situation. Taijiman Qigong Academy is a spiritual group with various academies in Taiwan and the U.S. The group strongly believes that they are being persecuted in democratic Taiwan through a tax evasion indictment beginning in 1996 that reached Taiwan's Supreme Court.
Despite the Supreme Court of Taiwan's rulings that we're innocent and tax-free, a few rogue bureaucrats continue to send us tax bills, and even just last year in 2020, our land was illegally auctioned off.
Justice for Taijiman!
This summer, Taijiman Qigong Academy and the Action Alliance to Redress 1219 publicized their cause through live and virtual events. The Action Alliance to Redress 1219 is a group of international and Taiwanese legal, religious, and human rights specialists working to rectify the Taijiman case and defend religious and spiritual freedom. In Washington, D.C., members of Action Alliance to Redress 1219 participated in the 3-day International Religious Freedom Summit. Former U.S. Ambassador Sam Brownback helped launch the summit as a forum for tackling religious discrimination around the world.
The charter that we put forward for this summit is a broad-based charter for all faiths or people of no faith at all, but it's about protecting that right of freedom of belief or conscience, freedom of religion.
In 2007, the Taiwan Supreme Court found Taijimen Qigong Academy not guilty of tax evasion and cleared the group of all charges. But Taiwan's Taxation Bureau disregarded the court decision and continued to impose taxes on Taijimen Qigong Academy.
In Taiwan, our enforcement law actually matches the two international covenants because it says that the properties for worship, for prayings, are not subject to be seized.
During a June 17, 2010 public hearing in the Legislative Yuan, Taiwan's Ministry of Finance openly agreed to resolve the case within 2 months. That has still not occurred. As a result, Taijimen's sacred land was auctioned and nationalized on August 21, 2020.
What we're asking for is to return that property to Taijimen and to hold the corrupt officials accountable.
The group visited TECRO, the Taiwan Economic and Cultural Representative Office, where Taijimen Qigong Academy silently protested outside. TECRO representatives came outside to talk to the protesters. Taijimen members delivered a message and books about the case to them.
We're Taijimen members in the USA. We're calling on Taiwan's government, especially President Tsai, to redress our tax case. We have just conveyed our message to Taiwan's Representative Xiao in the DC. Until Taiwan's government take quick action to redress our case and return our land, we'll keep advocating for our case in the US and internationally.
So far, there has been no response from the Taiwan government. The Action Alliance to Redress 1219 continues to ramp up global awareness through efforts like virtual forums.
It is the year 2021, and we hope sooner rather than later that the case will be resolved. And I think we're standing in front of something that is a big symbol for justice, and we hope to continue our fight. This journey is not only for ourselves, but for human rights all around the world.
As the final remarks of the video say, Taijimen members' act of fighting for justice is a symbol that they are standing up for something much greater than themselves. They're engaged in the cause for religious freedom for the whole world. And following, presented to you by Dr. Massimo Introvigne, founder and director of the Center for Studies on New Religions, explaining in details what is the Taijimen case and what Taijimen case is not. Welcome, Dr. Introvigne.
What is the Taijimen case and what the Taijimen case is not? The Taijimen case is a case of freedom of religion or belief form, which we can divide in 4 types. Type 1, we all know that Taiwan enjoys religious liberty, unlike mainland China, but it was not always the case. Taiwan had a policy of controlling and repressing independent religious movements during the martial law period and beyond. And in 1996, religious and spiritual groups suspected of not supporting the president were severely repressed. Taijimen was also involved in this, even if it never took political sides. Its grandmaster or Shifu, Dr. Hong, was arrested and members were persecuted. Second time, the total victory of Taijimen up to the highest courts in Taiwan. Taijimen won all the court cases. Dr. Hong and his co-defendants were declared innocent and even awarded compensation money for the past unjust detention. Time number 3, however, a byproduct of this form persecution remain in the shape of tax bills. Even if the courts had said there was no tax evasion, the Tax Bureau continue to try to impose bills on Dr. Hong and Taiji Men. The Tax Bureau revoked all the bills except one for the year 1992 based on a technicality. And time number 4, even if courts of law told them not to do it, the Tax Bureau and the Enforcement Agency in 2020 auctioned and then confiscated lands belonging to Dr. Hong and intended for a spiritual cultivation center of Taiji Men. Now, it's important that we understand what the Taiji Men case is not. It's not a tax dispute between a citizen and the government. It will not create so much commotion. Of course, the case shows some injustice in Taiwanese tax bureaucracy, but we should remember that the root is the form. It's a freedom of religion or belief case, and what is done to Taiji Men is violation of form. Number 2, it's not about money. Taiji Men might have settled with the tax office and spent much less money than they did in prosecuting this case for 25 years, but it's about form. It's not about money, and that's why the case continues. And number 3, it's not a protest against Taiwan or the Taiwanese system. Those of the Taiji Men who live in Taiwan, who are Taiwanese citizens, they love their country, they are patriots, they understand Taiwan has a lot of problems, and precisely because of this, they want Taiwan to have a good image as a country where form is respected. So it is a form case, and because it is a form case, thousands of people are in the streets in Taiwan protesting about it. And because it's a form case, I believe it deserves to be internationalized, and all the governments, agencies, NGOs caring for form should care for this case and not to be misled into dismissing it as a private tax dispute between a citizen and the state, but understand that fundamental principles of freedom of religion and belief and respect for spiritual minorities are at work in this important case. Thank you.
I personally would call this Dr. Intervene's anatomy of the Taiji Men case. Very precise and right to the point. The Taiji Men case is about the fundamental principles of freedom of religion or belief. And that's the significance that the Taiji Men case represents to the whole world. Taiji Men's long journey of advocating for justice and religious freedom has raised awareness of the global community. Many international religious experts are speaking up and sharing their ideal of freedom of religion and conscience. Next, presented to you by Andy Swarna, author of Religious Freedom Forever and American Value Forever. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, hello. Greetings to religious freedom activists and brothers and sisters. Thank you to Action Alliance to Redress 1219, revealers of truth of Taiji Men tax case, for inviting me to share my story of politics and faith. But before, a few words on Taiji Men tax case. The tax case of Taiji Men depicts a perfect example of freedom by principle, liberation by self-worth are two different things. Today, our gathering represents commemorating the victims of violence based on religion or belief. But by principle, it is the religious freedom, and in its ability, we discuss the issue, conflict, the crossfire that happened with the government. A small group of bureaucrats and their misuse of authority, violation of law, and religious liberty, with the spiritual organization of Taiji men been around 24 years. Even after the Supreme Court's clearing, the case is not the end of an issue, as it needs a political solution. Political resolution generally comes with recognizing the must strength of the other party and addressing the long-term goals. However, in a nutshell, I'm talking about the potential of self-worth without a doubt. So we have religious freedom by principle, but where are we as self-worth in the freedom of conflict resolution of faith and politics? So I, Andy Swarna, have a story of an outside box thinking and the prophetic work of Almighty God. I call it great truth, highest benefit, being human. In a sentence, outside box thinking and religious freedom produced universal human. I have also published a book on my work. It's called Religious Freedom Forever. So we know religious freedom, but when adding forever to the human nature, it becomes an update to the entire human thought and how an individual's life is elevated in the truth and reality required to write the word forever, or in general, the solution of thought process. In simple, we have made forever advancement in how human is solution to human problems. So, and now I'll brief summarize who is universal human, who is an update on social impact and spiritual impact. In this free world, in the liberated world, is established by the principles to find common ground for peaceful coexistence. This environment of find common ground for peaceful coexistence and political ideologies met the outside box thinker, one software professional's thought, the idea of we understand each other by the penetration of faith and politics through sensitive conversation. Sensitive conversation means it assures certainty in the decision making. When this started back in 2003, there was no answer to how anyone can follow the interest of all people. When no individual can follow the interest of all people, there is no universal human. It means nobody truly participating in peace and harmony. In a nutshell, we know every nation spends as their first priority for their security because humans don't live as solution to human problems. This poverty of mind is disharmony. It is a hunger for meaning and required transformation found in the universal human thoughts. And the universal human is the one who has the winning conversation on the conflict resolution of faith and politics and establishes universal interface for that which good for you, good for everybody. In brief, if identity penetrated, no harmony. If belief penetrated, no harmony. If behavior penetrated, no harmony. In response, I summarize in a couple of points. The first point, individuals have many stories, national, religious, ethnic, and so forth, but also has natural story. It answers what natural identity way is, the foundation for harmony and unity of immutable conversation within and outside the world. And as an answer to every person living with conflict in mind for their similarities and dissimilarities. This universal identity is best meaning and use of understanding each other has undivided self-worth with the perfection to the penetration for what you have in you to visit, for all that is unopened demands. That starts as we can still come together to act, to bring about more just and peaceful future. That fail as don't have an answer. That give up, don't agree on everything. Then recognize the need and start again. Wrestle with our imperfect understanding and try to learn more about other people's perspectives. But all in all, it results in everything to return to non-conflict judgment, including certainty by the reality in the decision-making that constantly revisits but rests in the discovery of life and who has the intelligence of it that supports and strengthens harmony of right reason. And the second point, universality of faith. Belief in God should be a solution, not a problem. Man cannot divide faith in God anymore. It has a universal harmony. Faith is a natural judgment relationship to all sides. It has one God spiritual enrichment by God fulfilled religious freedom. God fulfilled religious freedom means sensitive conversation that assures certainty, found the revival of life through the natural response in and through undefined of the soul. It is a natural universal revelation. Being natural is the undivided focus that nurtures the beauty of life and captures the wonder of God is forever, and so I am living forever. The one version of truth in God and self. That concludes, in the world of politics and faith, the individual has a universal potential to live as a solution to human problems. With the universal human behavior of successful human nature. And the highest benefit being a human is that in the interaction and conversation, in understanding each other has a new elevation that establishes belief in God should be a solution, not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Part of your speech actually took me back in time to the philosophy course in college.
Yes, yes.
I remember that I did not do so well in that class though. But it doesn't affect my determination in following my Shifu, the Zhangmenren of Taiji Men, Dr. Hong Daozi's footsteps in cultivating my heart and mind. The wisdom that I learned from Shifu has elevated me above myself to a level which I believe is conscience. So I'm able to somewhat related to what you said with the only version of truth, the only version of harmony and the universal human.
That's
because
right.
We are all of one.
That's right.
Yeah, I hope my philosophy professor would give me a better grade for the class. Has he heard me?
The truth is we have ability to support harmonious reason. If we are not able to support harmonious reason, then there is something wrong here. Our belief is not being a solution to the human problems. So I'm cultivating that potential, the ability in humans as in individuals, one by one or a group, however it is, that every problem somehow connected to religion or identity. So when you know yourself as a universal human, you can make a renewed social impact, renewed spiritual impact.
Yes, that will be our goal and mission. Next step in a way.
Yeah, I'll be happy to work with you.
Thank you, Andy. All right, and next, presented to you by Eric Roux, President of European and Interreligious Forum for Religious Freedom. Eric, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, 14 years ago, truth and justice prevailed in Taiwan when the criminal court gave a final verdict that found that Taiji Men was not guilty of any charges they were wrongly accused of. That was an important decision that showed that Taiwan was choosing the path of justice and democracy. And indeed, Taiwan is nowadays one of the great democracies in the world. So how can we understand that after 14 years, a few bureaucrats are still able to harass and persecute a peaceful and honest movement that has proven its good faith in court for the last 25 years? How can we understand that less than a year ago, Taiji Men saw their land and properties auctioned and confiscated by the state? Well, no country is perfect, but the problem is that when it's a so-called democratic country which starts erring on the wrong side of the tracks, when injustice occurs in a place that is supposed to be one of the good places of the world, the effects may be worse than when it occurs in an already totalitarian country. Why? Because it lowers the very standards of democracy for the entire world. It sends the message that injustice would not matter, that wherever you are, bad guys can win over good guys, and that there is no accountability in this world. A system where dishonest civil servants are allowed to continue to abuse their power without being stopped and without effective accountability needs reform. In the Taijimen case, the authority of control has found gross violations of human rights by the authorities for their wrongful handling of the case. That is already a good thing, but it has not stopped the fanatics who were at the origin of all attacks against the Taijimen. It has not put a final period to the case. Freedom of religion and belief is not a minor right. It's a fundamental right. And in that case, it's that very freedom that is in the center of it. It is that very freedom that is threatened to death. Why, would you say? The right to property and the right to fair justice are also fundamental rights. And they at the center of this case? Right, they are. But I believe that they are not the core of the issue. Because what matters to Taijimen Dizi is not the property per se. What matters the most is their right to practice their spirituality freely without being harassed. The right to teach their spirituality freely without being harassed. The possibility to spread goodness around without undue interference and without undue burdens. Man is a spiritual being before to be a material one. His or her freedom of conscience has more value than anything else. And when freedom of conscience is attacked, it hurts more than anything else. 25 years of harassment is definitely too long. Of course, some could say that there are worse cases in the world. That may be true, but that's no excuse. If it was, then I could rob a bank and then get away with it by saying that some people would have killed, so that my robbery was not really serious. No, there's no excuse for 25 years of undue harassment. On that anniversary day, I make the wish that this year be the year of justice. I make the wish that the Taijimen finally see the end of the persecution and recover its properties and land. And I make the wish that justice prevails once for all in the Taijimen case, so that all of the Dizi can now concentrate on their spiritual mission and practice without interference for the greatest good. Have a very good day today, and as always, make the best of it.
Thank you so much for your kind wishes for Taijimen, Eric. We urge Taiwan to seriously think about the message that the Taijimen unjust case sends out to the world, that Taiwan's democracy is at risk, that Taiwan otherwise would have been one of the best places in the world for people to enjoy religious freedom, but unfortunately is not. It's time to reform and right the wrong. And next, we're going to hear what Joy Devo, a lawyer at the Africa Center for Law and Justice in Kenya, has to say about how she relates to Taijimen case.
My name is Joy Devo. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I work for the East Africa Center for Law and Justice, where we fight for family, religious liberty, and for the rights of everybody actually. I only heard about this recently. I wasn't aware of it 24 years is a long time, but I only just heard about it. And what stood out for me was how taxation was being used as a battle against the citizens of the country. And it felt to me not just oppressive, but also a little bit sad, because everybody needs money, everybody needs to live. And when you target people's livelihoods, it not only disabuses them of their religious freedom, but even of their economic and freedom rights to be able to live, fend for their families. And that made me quite sad. It's also very challenging when you're just regular people fighting against the machinery of the government. Because, I mean, how do you win against that? It's David and Goliath. It's really, really hard. So my heart went out to the Thai people, and I thought to myself, you know what? Any little bit I can do to just say, we are standing with you. We hope that one day you just get the space that you need to be who you are, to love your families, to contribute to the economy of the country. That will be a good day. So that is my hope, and that is my prayer for you. One thing is definitely get the word out there. The more people know about it, the more they talk about it, there's pressure to have a conversation. Because when you keep quiet, people don't understand what you're going through. But when you speak up, more and more people hear what's going on. And for example, participating in this summit is great, because this is a place where all the world major religions have come together, all the various beliefs, and all of us have only one cry: religious freedom. We just want to believe what we want to believe. What makes you happy, what keeps you sane, what keeps you centered, we just want to be able to believe that. And so as long as you keep working with people of like mind, like faith, we don't have to believe in the same God or in the same way to heaven or anything, but just that freedom to believe, keep at it, because it's worth winning, and it's not just for you, it's for future generations. And finally, to the government as well, you need everybody to be able to build your economy. Today a group may look like small, insignificant, that need to be destroyed. You never know, those could be the ones tomorrow who could be the superpower of the nation. They could be the ones who discover something that will build and encourage the nation and lift it in the face of the world. Everybody is precious. Human resource is precious. Get rid of that, you don't have much. You only have roads and airports. Who needs that? So take care of your people. You need them.
Thank you for your prayers for Taijiman Joy. Yes, you're right. The Taijiman case describes the administrative abuses in many folds: religious freedom, economy, people's freedom to live, etc. It's a very appropriate analogy of David versus Goliath, because in the fight for justice, Taijiman is going against the machinery of the government. But there are so many Davids of us. And we are hopeful that by raising the global awareness of the Taijiman case, Taiwan government will redress the injustice. Thank you for standing with us and calling out to the Taiwan government. And next, let's hear what Damian Williams, founder of Leadership League, has to say about religious freedom from a social entrepreneur and investor's point of view.
My name's Damian Williams, and I'm a social entrepreneur, investor, and build enterprises. I think when I hear cases like that, it makes me realize how important it is that we spread time-honored values and principles, not only to Taiwan, but to the nations, liberty and justice for all. And understanding that anytime that we worship government over God, we're going to see these kinds of things happen. And so we don't worship government, we don't bow to government, we bow to causes and values and purpose, and really the Creator who has created all of us. And so we are endowed by our Creator with certain rights, and one of those rights is religious freedom, and the freedom to choose what one's beliefs are. You know, I think the biggest thing is we have to create environments, not only in America but Taiwan and around the world, where it's safe for people to gather and to converse, and to know that it's safe. No matter what you believe, no matter where you've been, no matter what religious worldview you come from, that it's a safe place to have dialogue. And until we have that kind of world, we're going to have these kind of cases that you're trumpeting here, that just go under the radar screen, and justice is never brought to the case, because people are trying to protect a government-centered perspective on religious freedom. I think that sometimes it's hard to change the culture of a country through governmental values. I think that oftentimes what happens is when people start to experience success financially, maybe starting businesses, living out an entrepreneurial life, then that tends to create a greater respect for diversity, even like in the workplace. So as much as I believe in the government, and I think the government's part of the solution, I actually believe at the end of the day, the more that we see free enterprise flourish, then that creates scenarios where we see less and less of these injustices. Our God has created us with a moral code. There's a moral code built into the DNA of every single person because we are a spirit that has a soul, that has a mind, that has a body. So at our core, we're all spiritual beings. And so we know right and wrong. No matter what culture we're from, no matter what nation we're from, deep inside we know that treating another person who's created in the image of God with a lack of dignity is wrong and immoral. So conscience. To me, there's no such thing as conscience without action. In other words, a core ideology is only worth the practical value that it brings to a society. And so when we're discussing religion and culture and core ideology, I think we have to put that core ideology to the test and ask ourselves, what kind of values does that core ideology yield? And then how do those values create a better society? Just like what you're doing, I think fight the good fight. I think anyone, I know that, there's religious differences, but I think anyone that at their core is standing for liberty and justice for all, that group is on my side and I'm on their side. And so I just appreciate your heart and your courage and your willingness to stand for what is right.
Thank you, Damien. Yes, we are on each other's sides in safeguarding liberty and justice for all. I would like to echo what Damien said about the moral code built in each one of us DNA, that it's our soul and conscience, and that conscience is not enough without action. What Taijimen members are doing now is carrying out the actions in response to the calling of conscience, as we are not fighting just for ourselves. It's for the greater good that everyone can benefit and enjoy. And we can't stress enough what the government did wrong in handling the Taijimen case, and the following video provides some facts about the case. Please take a look.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's program. On December 19th, 1996, the fabricated Taijimen case called the Law and Tax 228 incident by scholars and experts began. The Control Yuan investigated prosecutor Hou Guanren's handling of the Taijimen case and found he had committed 8 major violations of the law, and the case was sent to the Ministry of Justice for disciplinary action against Hou. This case was chosen as a major human rights protection case in the General Report and the Work of Human Rights Protection of the Control Yuan from 1999 to 2005. It has been confirmed that serious violations of human rights occurred during the case and investigation process. The false Taijimen case should never have existed in the first place, and it should never have resulted in illegal taxation or auctions. The case has lasted for 25 years. For the past quarter century, a world-renowned ancient spiritual group that practices Qigong and martial arts has been harassed, and the matter has yet to be resolved. Let us now listen to their stories.
In 1988, a Taijimen Academy was established in a shopping center in Kaohsiung. It was a good place for disciples in southern Taiwan to practice Qigong, and a sweet home for them.
When I first stepped into this academy, although the place was small, it was full of joy and laughter.
After joining Taijimen, every day after class, I would wait for my parents to take my brother and me to Taijimen. I would practice Qigong with other members. It was a place where we could relieve our stress.
Shifu always leads by example. After leading us to practice Qigong, Shifu would always talk about life philosophy and tell stories. At that time, the academy was always filled with laughter. Some would practice Qigong, while some would chat with one another. Many people wanted to join Taijimen.
I had cancer and was seriously ill. My health started to improve after I practiced Taijimen Qigong for about 3 months. Taijimen is a big family, and everyone here practices Qigong in peace and harmony. Stormy 1996. On December 19, 1996, the Taiwanese government launched a religious crackdown, and Taijimen was caught in the crossfire. Prosecutor Hou Huanren abused his power and illegally prosecuted Taijimen, causing significant damage to our home.
The 12/19 incident was really a big blow to us, and what was reported on TV was not what I saw in Taijimen. Because we're such a good group, our Shifu only teaches us what is good, right, and true.
Prosecutor Ho directed the searches and interrogations of investigators and armed police officers. He also slandered Taijimen by falsely accusing them of raising goblins. Regarding the allegation of raising goblins in the indictment, the Control Yuan solemnly stated that the prosecutor openly talked about the supernatural in the indictment. This was the first time in Taiwanese judicial history that something like this had happened. It was appalling and absurd, and it had seriously harmed the prestige of the justice system.
Prosecutor Ho's action was illegal, robbed the people of their property, and hurt innocent people. It harmed our sweet home and hampered the self-cultivation of many of our brothers and sisters. Every time I think about it, my heart aches. The prosecutor and police arrested a brother, and he was pale and trembling all over.
Even my family members misunderstood me, and my relatives and friends refused to interact with me.
The indictment and the evidence contradicted each other, according to the Control Yuan's investigation report, and the prosecutors bringing the public prosecution clearly broke the rule of evidence. During the Control Yuan's probe, Prosecutor Ho also stated that he did not actually investigate this matter. This proves that the Taijimen case was fabricated from the beginning. His smear campaign has done a lot of damage to Taijimen Shifu and Dizi. This indictment was both a national and international embarrassment.
It is not due process to accuse a human being in a civilized society of raising goblins. The mere statement of that would cause individuals and should cause individuals to question the sanity of the prosecutor. In any court of law, such an absurd allegation would be thrown out.
I firmly believe that Taijimen is a great place. We must defend it.
The Taijimen case is an unjust case. The fabricated indictment is in violation of evidence law. By law, the case should not have been prosecuted, and the indictment cannot be used as a basis for taxation. However, the criminal court accepted the case, and after thorough investigations and trials spanning 10 years and 3 months, the Supreme Court declared Taijimen not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges on July 13, 2007. It was illegal for the National Taxation Bureau to issue tax bills based on the indictment. When the Supreme Court declared Taijimen not guilty, affirming that it owed no taxes, it reaffirmed that the indictment was completely improper. Therefore, by law, the tax bill issued based on the indictment should have been revoked in accordance with the court decision. However, the NTB ignored the court's decision and continued to issue illegal tax bills to Taijimen.
This case has dragged on for 25 years, spanning several presidencies. Still, no government official came forward to admit their mistakes and accept responsibility.
During the Legislative Yuan's public hearing on June 17, 2010, the Ministry of Finance and the NTB of the Central Area openly agreed to withdraw the enforcement and end the Taijumen unjust tax case within 2 months. But they broke their promise, and the case has yet to be resolved. On August 21, 2020, Taijumen's sacred land in Miaoli was illegally auctioned and confiscated. The Taijumen Academy on Lainan Street, Kaohsiung, was twice seized and banned from being disposed of.
The building was seized for a prolonged period of time. We couldn't maintain or manage it since we didn't have access to it. As a result, all the valuable items were stolen.
Tears welled up in my eyes as I entered the academy, which had been destroyed.
Kenneth Jacobson, professor of law at Temple University in Philadelphia, United States of America, and former advisor to President Bill Clinton, after studying the case for years, pointed out,
I teach my students and I lecture around the world about how important the rule of law is. And there is no and was no application of the rule of law in the Taijumen tax case. I call upon the President of Taiwan, I call upon the leaders of Taiwan to fix the mistakes of the past. As I have said before, to allow errors to continue, to perpetuate mistakes that were made in the past is as bad, if not worse, than committing those mistakes in the first place. This is a travesty. It is a tragedy too. It is unjust. And as someone who respects and has lived his life and career respecting the rule of law, this is offensive, and it should end, and it should end now. Thank you very much.
When Judge Zhang Zilong asked Shifu to present his statement, Shifu stated that he would use his life to defend Taijumen and his disciples.
Shifu was only released during court sessions after being detained for a long time. A journalist asked, Shifu, what do you plan to do in the future? Shifu replied, I will continue to teach my disciples to cultivate their hearts and moral character as long as they do not leave.
Shifu later told us to treat this society and this country with sincerity, diligence, tolerance, and peace. I admire Shifu's immense love and compassion even more.
I'm very grateful for Shifu's and his wife's perseverance, since Shifu is doing the right thing.
Along the way, I heard Shifu's teachings and saw his examples. No matter how many difficulties and challenges Shifu faces, he always leads his disciples to overcome the obstacles one by one. Shifu and his disciples share one goal in mind. We will certainly protect this brightly lit home.
Taijumen has visited every populated continent, promoting the concept of love and peace through cultural exchanges. The fabricated Taijumen case should not have existed from the beginning, let alone the illegal taxation and illegal auctions. The case has dragged on for 25 years. This is a landmark case of human rights in the century, which is relevant to the development of Taiwan's democracy and rule of law. Taijumen Shifu and Dizi will always insist on upholding the truth and justice. Taiwan's commitment to transitional justice and human rights protection has been put to the test in this 25-year case of blood and tears. According to scholars and experts, the ratification of the Taijumen case is a litmus test for the government's transitional justice, as well as its implementation of human rights protection and freedom of thought and belief. Thank you for watching.
The Taijumen case should never have happened in the first place, because it was all based on a fabricated indictment. The taxing and auctioning and later confiscating Taijimen's land that followed should never have occurred because they all came from the bogus case. Seen the video for so many times myself, I still get emotional. But I remember what Shifu taught us, to persevere with love and conscience and never give up. Taijimen members' protests in the street have drawn attention of many local scholars and experts. Next, Dr. Junjie Huang, professor of the Department of Financial and Economic Law of the Zhongzheng University in Taiwan, will share his perspective.
Today is the International Day commemorating the victims of acts of violence based on religion or belief. Everywhere in the world, we witness different religions persecuted by the state power. It is my privilege today to share with you some of the cases of religious persecutions and some of my personal works. Hopefully, I can shed some light on discussions in this forum. About 30 years ago, I was teaching in National Defense University. When we discussed Article 13 of Taiwan's Constitution about religious freedom, we presented some religious persecutions as cases discussions in class. As the students are military judges, they share with me cases in the military. I wrote an article based upon the stories they share with me and published it in Journal of Legal Studies in Taiwan. The article got widespread feedbacks. The case is about Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses refuses to serve military services in Germany. In Germany, civilians have the right to refuse to serve military services, so their rejection of military service is legally sound. But they also refuse to serve the substitute military services. However, the Federal Constitutional Court ruled against them in the opinion that substitute military service does not require carrying any weapons. Therefore, civilians cannot reject the request of substitute military services. I had some discussions with Jehovah's Witnesses and understood why they reject to serve military services. They believe that military services with weapons will likely be dragged into war by the state, and this is against their religion's belief. During the martial law period, we had crime of disobedience which could be sentenced up to 7 years in prison. A Jehovah's Witness believer reported to the military, but refused to do his services. He asked to be sentenced for crime of disobedience rather than wearing uniforms and performing military drills. As he wished, he was charged and sentenced 7 years. Back then, in order to stop your military service, you have to be sentenced 7 years and above and held in jail for at least 4 years. He accepted the ruling out of his religion's belief. But when he did 3.5 years, the martial law was lifted and a commutation law was enacted. So he was out of after 3.5 years. As he did not do 4 full years in prison, he had to do his military services. He protested against the commutation, but his protest was rejected by the court as the commutation was in his favor. So he left the prison with deep pain because his religion's belief was not honored. He reported to the military and refused to do his military service again. So he was again sentenced 7 years and sent back to jail. Time passes and he did 3.5 years. Now it is the first ever presidential election in Taiwan. So another commutation was made and he was released from jail again. Of course, he protested against the commutation and was rejected again. The case is to share with you that We are not in the position to tell what is good or bad to a religious person. What we consider good for him might not be indeed good for him from his religion's perspective. I would like to report to you on the following in particular. A religion or spiritual movement knows best about its own essence and the core of its most essential principles. The formation of a religious or cultural organization is usually preceded by the country's constitution. As a result, our constitution or rule of law should honor this, and we should respect the religion's organization as well as its roots and nature. Back to the case of Taijimen. For the common people, a piece of land is just property right. But for a religious group, a piece of land reserved for their holy religious practice is more than just a piece of land. It is their holy land. In some cases, the holy land is even worth dying for. Taijimen has always been our national pride. Due to our political situations, we have been denied access to many international organizations. Thanks to Taijimen's civilian diplomacy, we have established positive relationships with many nations around the world, and Taijimen has received widespread support from religions and political leaders. After the two international covenants legalizing Taiwan, we have confirmed for the first time that property right is more than just the exchange of value or compensation. We now accept that the land and property could be the basis upon which life can be sustained. Therefore, we look at the ruling for tax year 1992, and we have to think that this is more than just violation of property rights. It is the violation of cultural and religious right. I would like to take this opportunity to urge international experts to remind the responsible government authorities to treat the case as a violation of universal human rights. We hope the voices of Taijimen will be heard.
Thank you, Dr. Huang. The country's constitution and the two international covenants adopted in Taiwan that precede the formation of a religious or cultural organization should honor its roots, nature, its practice, and its holy land, and not force the organization to take any political stance using any form of suppression. Thank you so much. And next, the chairman of the Orthodox Alliance, Professor Jinling Lin, who has done some profound studies in the Taijimen case, will share his thoughts. Welcome, Professor Lin.
My dear friends, I'm Lin Junlin, chairperson of Chinese Orthodox Alliance. I'm very pleased to take part in the forum in support of International Day commemorating the victims of acts of violence based on religion or belief. Dr. Sun Yat-sen once said that we human beings have thoughts. The thoughts come from our belief, and the belief will generate strong power. Therefore, belief has always been a very important spiritual benchmark in our civilization. Since ancient times, it has been reported around the world that a conflict or even a war has erupted over religions or belief. Faith has been combined with politics to rule peoples in various countries on the planet. If a government's policies are ineffective and cause its people to suffer, the people will be forced to revolt. There will be conflicts of faith and religious disputes as a result of this. In the Chinese world, belief is from within, with peoples pursuing truth, kindness, and beauty. The purpose of belief is to balance and improve people's inner qualities and stabilize society, but it is saddening to find political power being misused to violence people's freedom of religion or belief. The most notable case is the case of Taijimen, which has been harassed by an unjust tax demand for 25 years, and the case has not been rectified. I've studied why they have been persecuted by tax authorities. Isn't there a motivation for this? What is the motivation? The bonuses for collecting taxes. Individuals' education level were not always particularly high in the past, and our government policy relied on the idea that big rewards will push people to act bravely, and rewarded tax officers for constantly auditing tax files and uncovering tax evasion. Of course, there who target large organizations first. Our famous Taijiman was caught in the crossfire. At that time, many other religions and spiritual groups were targeted, as well in that atmosphere. Taijiman, under the leadership of Dr. Hong Daozi, was known internationally and has accomplished a lot. As a result, he was targeted by a prosecutor and tax officers and was treated as a fat cat. However, there has never been an instance where a master has been taxed for receiving monetary gifts from his or her disciples since ancient times. I've studied this for a long time and discovered that if they want to prosecute you, they must first accuse you of being at fault. Because you cannot be taxed for receiving monetary gifts, they will initially accuse your organization of being a cram school. They accuse you of neglecting to register your organization as a cram school and conduct an audit of your financial record. Why did the tax agency insist on treating Taijiman as a cram school and leveling a supplementary tax? So, how can we live and work in peace and happiness under such circumstances? Therefore, I'm saying to the government, it is inhuman if you continue to compete with the people for property, and if you continue to falsely charge the people. Where is your conscience to protect people's lives, properties, and with freedom? The government should uphold justice and rightness. However, there is no way for a person to achieve justice if he or she is found guilty based on the arbitrary decision made by a government official, even if there is a lot of evidence in the person's favor. The judicial system cleared Taijiman's name to some extent over 10 years ago. So why has only the 1992 tax bill has been maintained? I believe that, similar to the motivation I said earlier, the bonuses for collecting taxes have been distributed. It's difficult to get it back. Taijiman members, in my opinion, merely desire justice, not necessarily money. However, the case has dragged on for 24 years as a result of the erroneous tax bill, and Taijiman's land for self-cultivation has been confiscated. That is despicable. Therefore, I am hopeful that this circumstance will not repeat itself. I implore our government to allow people to live and work in peace and happiness, as well as complete freedom of religions or belief, which will aim the government in calming the people's hearts. Don't put us all in danger and disturb our peace of mind. Hurry up and return justice to Taijiman, which is the same as returning justice to all of us. We are always with you, Taijiman member. Your business is already the business of all people. Let's work together. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Lin. There has been evidence shown in the official document of the Taijiman case that supports Professor Lin's inference regarding the monetary motivation of the tax officials. It's not a secret that tax officials receive monetary bonuses for collecting taxes in Taiwan. but it does not justify their wrongful accusation of Taijimen evading taxes. The government should base its decision and act on conscience and protect its people's lives, property, and freedom of religion. As Professor Lin said, Taijimen's justice is all people's justice. Again, we are calling upon the Taiwan government to expedite redressing Taijimen's justice. Following, we have a few Taijimen members joining us online to share their testimonials. Immediately, we have Pamela Chen, Director of Customer Service Department. Sorry, I lost my page. So she's the Director of Customer Services Department at a wholesale industry. Her speech is titled, Transform Sadness into Strength to Help My Beloved Country. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you. Today, I would like to share my story. December 19, 1996 marks the beginning of the persecution of Taijimen Qigong Academy in Taiwan. Back then, I had just graduated from university and started working in a US affiliated company in Taiwan. Prosecutor Ho Pan-ren violated the principle that prosecutorial investigation should not be disclosed, and he used the media to release false information about Taijimen. Within a short period of time, there were over 400 false news reports about Taijimen. As a result, my colleagues would give me strange looks. That was a big blow to me as I just started working. When I joined Taijimen, I was a junior in university. Although I was only in my early 20s, I had been bothered by frequent colds and poor sleep quality for many years. After practicing Taijimen Qigong, my health improved dramatically. Because of that, many of my family members, friends, and teachers joined Taijimen after seeing my changes. I'm so happy that I recommend them to join Taijimen, which is such a good place. However, Prosecutor Ho falsely accused Taijimen of fraud, tax evasion, and raising goblins, which was horrifying and non-scientific. The media continued to spread false news to ruin Taijimen's reputation. They planted seeds of doubt in people's hearts throughout Taiwan. The prosecutor abused his power to incite fear in people. Many friends of mine who joined Taijimen because of my recommendations started to keep a considerable distance from me after the smear campaign against Taijimen. They even stopped contacting me, which pained me so much. These false reports ruined their opportunities to improve their physical and mental health at Taijimen. At the beginning of the case, Prosecutor Ho said in the media that he would detain 200 more people for the case. At that time, the Grandmaster Shifu and his wife, Shimu, and some of my fellow Taijimen brothers and sisters had been wrongly accused and detained. I really want to do something to help. Luckily, I was honored to have the opportunity to be a messenger, to help bring documents to the defense lawyer and bring relevant information back to my fellow Taijimen brothers and sisters before I went to work or during my lunch break. I will never forget the first time I met the lawyer. He reminded me that to pay attention to my personal safety because I might be tracked and taped, and I must be cautious in taking notes. If I'm not careful, I may be taken to the investigation bureau. Therefore, I would often keep several sets of clothes in my car so that I could change into them at any time. The short-handed notes used in different codes to avoid implicating my brothers and sisters. Important messages were conveyed in person to avoid being monitored. In those days, I had never told anyone about this. I kept it deep in my heart for 25 years. I was often shocked by the first-hand information given by the lawyer, since it was very negative and untrue. One rainy day, I sat in my car alone. Feeling great sadness, I wept loudly and asked God, why must this happen to me? I'm under 25 years old. Why should I see this darkness at such a young age? Why is there a persecutor in Taiwan that cannot distinguish right from true from false and right from wrong? Am I still believe this is a democratic country that respects the rule of law? Is there any hope for Taiwan? Why do I have to open my heart again and again to talk about the Taijimen case? Although I moved to the United States, I really love the place where I was born, Taiwan. All of my family members are in Taiwan now. I hope the people living there are really happy and safe. Due to the unjust case of Taijimen, I saw the darkness of human nature and the injustice of the system, and thus accumulate a lot of negative emotions in me. In the past 25 years, thanks to the teaching of my grandmaster, I have obtained a lot of wisdom and strength that help me move forward. I have gradually healed my emotional wounds. In the Taijimen case, Shifu and Shimu are the ones whose rights have been directly and gravely violated, and the ones who have endured gross injustice and insults. However, Shifu and Shimu always remind us not to harbor resentment or hatred, but to embrace hope and courage. He encouraged us to work hard, be patient, and be peaceful in the face of this ordeal. Not only should we not harbor hatred in our hearts, but we should also love Taiwan, assist Taiwan, and help Taiwanese people, because injustice against one people is injustice against all people. And the injustice endured by the Taijimen may be experienced by other individuals and organizations as well. He also inspired us to love Taiwan and to speak up, to stand up, and take actions to improve Taiwan's legal and tax system and prevent other people in Taiwan from experiencing the same injustice that we have suffered. 9 years ago, I chose to move to the United States, but every year around the anniversary of December 19 incident, I miss my family in Taiwan, my master, and my brothers and sisters of Taijimen. Since the coldest winter to me 25 years ago to this day, they have been insisting on fighting for justice. On many occasions, my family traveled to Taiwan to join the protests in front of the presidential office building. We have used concrete action to show our support for Taijimen and our determination to redress this unjust case, together with other Taijimen brothers and sisters. Many Taiwanese scholars and even international experts and organizations have expressed their support for Taijimen on this long journey to rectify the case, because we are upholding the truth, justice, and democracy. Many people become our allies and are willing to speak up for us. At the Earth Summit this year, my 13-year-old daughter joined the effort to rectify the Taijimen unjust case. I was so proud of her and pleased that she had earned the wisdom from the Grandmaster of Taijimen. As Taijimen deeds, we insist on doing the right thing, not only for ourselves, but also stand up for others. I will transform my sadness into strength. I will insist on doing the right thing. I, along with other overseas Taijimen deeds, condemn these few rogue officials for persecuting Taijimen Shifu and deeds. It is a violation of the right to the freedom of religion or belief, as well as the freedom of culture. It also smears the reputation of Taiwan's efforts for the value of democracy. Finally, I call for the Taiwanese government immediately end the 25-year persecution and return Taijimen's sacred land, that the rule of law function in a democratic country. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. I'm glad to know that you have found your inner peace in your practices at Taijimen and recovered from the trauma that you experienced at a younger age. What stood out to me is that you and other Taijimen sisters and brothers transformed the inner peace into an even greater love for your fellow Taiwanese people and even global citizens. In that, you stand up together, speak out together with advocacy for justice. For that, I truly admire. Thank you. And next, I would like to invite you all to view this video that shows why Taijimen Dizi persists to have justice served. Let's take a look. No way.
什么秘密？真相的时光机，谁在欺骗你？变得了的钢琴，滴着水的屋顶，已消失的光阴，谁能倒回去？孔子说子不语怪力乱神，侯简说的你们确信？没调查，带枪上门抓人入狱，无罪却没人听。没做的事被你说的绘声绘影，良心在哪里？人民在苦海之中哭泣，但你全都当成是放屁。国税是你的兵器，即使法院说没问题，你依然嗤之以鼻，置之不理，自以为是皇帝，草菅人命，逼到绝境，谁能真正伸张正义？蚂蚁拼命，永不放弃，一颗炽热贪心，犯错不停，随着轮回，早已失效的行政救济，满载负评，逐渐沦为一场永远没止境的悲剧。不顾程序，委托文书，倒卖名产，曾经书院不理，别再自说不改，冥顽不灵，为了奖金玩弄命，操纵媒体，借贪权，贪赃法无无名，正义其实根本不正义。我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持真理，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持到底，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。国税是你的兵器，即使法院说没问题，你依然嗤之以鼻，置之不理，自以为是皇帝，草菅人命，逼到绝境，谁能真正伸张正义？蚂蚁拼命，永不放弃，一颗炽热丹心，犯错不停，随着轮回，早已失效的行政救济，满载负评，逐渐沦为一场永远没止境的悲剧。不顾程序，委托文书，倒卖名产，曾经书院不理，别再自说不改，冥顽不灵，为了奖金玩弄命，操纵媒体，借贪权，贪赃法无无名，正义其实根本不正义。我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持真理，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持到底，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。不管未来路上充满多少的困境，自始至终我们都不曾放弃，捍卫真理，守护家园，我不曾忘记，勇敢坚持到底是我的宿命，要我放弃心中坚持的正义 ，No way, no way, no way, no way。
Justice delayed is justice denied. but there's no way that we'll ever give up justice and righteousness in our heart. This group of people, 太极门弟子, are the ones who will make Taiwan a much better place for all Taiwanese people. Next, another 太极门弟子, Jeff Kuo, a sales and marketing manager in the high-tech industry, will share his perspective of the 太极门 case titled
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff. I have lived in the US for more than 30 years. The insomnia and gout that have bothered me for years were alleviated soon after my practice of Qigong at Taijimen. In addition, the emotional issues brought on by work stress also improved significantly. Gradually, my family life started to move toward the path of happiness. The Qigong practice at Taijimen is all-encompassing. It benefits not only the individual's physical and mental health, but also the health of the community and the world. Taijimen's master, Dr. Hong Daozi, led his disciples all over the world to spread the beauty of Chinese culture and to promote love and peace and the era of conscious movement. From my experience of visiting various countries, I observed that in some countries, the earlier political leaders had the moral courage and the determination to take on the arduous challenge of institutional reforms and gradually led the country toward the path of vigorous development and progress. With the improved political environment, people can realize their full potentials, live and work in peace, and enjoy a progressive and happy life. These countries eventually became the leading countries in the world. On the other hand, in some countries, the politicians prioritize their personal interests over the interests of the people they serve. They stimulate the country's progress, hinders its development, and held back people's lives in a difficult situation. This shows that the selfishness and inaction of a few politicians ultimately sacrifice the welfare and happiness of many people in that country. Taijimen is a cultural and martial art group dedicating itself to promote the well-being of individuals and communities, and through cultural understandings, love and peace in the world. However, in 1997, the Taiwan Authority instigated a political purge. In addition to a criminal investigation, the tax authorities, National Tax Bureau, or NTB, issued 6 illegal tax bills to Taijimen. In 2007, the criminal court issued its final verdict of not guilty, no tax owed, red envelope is a gift, not a business transaction. In a 2010 public hearing, the Finance Ministry and NTB promised to revoke the enforcement execution and resolve the case. However, they breached their promise and auctioned the land intended for self-cultivation. They have seized people's property illegally. After 25 years of effort, Taijimen seem to have prevailed in court and in public hearings. However, the NTB is like the Hydra of Lerna in the Greek mythology. It cannot be tamed and cannot be killed. The NTB's illegal seizure and auction of Taijimen's land has been a gross violation of human rights and an abuse of the tax authorities' overwhelming power over the taxpayers. In 1987, Taiwan transitioned from an authoritarian system to a democracy. Taiwan's achievement in democracy in the past 34 years is well known and has won applauses from the world. However, The real transformation should be beyond the change in the external system. The change in the thinking and attitude of government officials is even more important. The people are the masters. Government officials are the servants, and human rights are universal values. The respect for human rights and a country based on human rights are the cornerstones that ensure the prosperity and sustainability of the country. Regrettably, the legacy of authoritarianism in the past still exists in the so-called democratic Taiwan. Some government officials are greedy for personal gains, and their persecution and oppression of people through the authority they hold have greatly hindered Taiwan's realization of transitional justice, making it difficult for Taiwan to become a true democracy. The 25-year Taijimen case and the many innocent tax victims shows the serious damages caused by such a legacy. The Taijimen case has affected tens of thousands of Taijimen members and their families around the world. Taiwan's Control Yan has listed this case as an indicative case of human rights violation. Therefore, we believe this case deserves international attention. We hope that through this case, the conscience of every world citizen, including the government officials, can be awakened. We need to look at this case squarely. We must do the right things based on our conscience, have moral courage, and bravely take the first step. I implore the Taiwanese government to solve the case with wisdom and to return the sacred land to Taijimen. The successful redress of this case will not only improve Taiwan's human rights protection, but also have a positive and important influence on international social justice and sustainable development. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff. Human rights and freedom of religion or belief in Taiwan and in the rest of the world are interdependent. One region's success in safeguarding the rights and freedom of religion projects the world's success in the same matter. And following, Taijimen Dizi Anne Chen, who practices law in the US as well as in Taiwan, will share with us. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Jenny. Hello, everyone. I'm a dual licensed attorney both in Taiwan and California. I joined Taijimen with my parents when I was 7 years old. Because of the Taijimen case, I traveled to Washington, D.C. in July of this year to attend the International Religious Freedom Summit. We explained to the attendees that we are Taiwanese American working to rescue groups in Taiwan who are being persecuted for their religion or belief. Everyone was very surprised and assumed that something like this would only happen in China. As a result, the case of Taijimen case has gained international media attention. When the participants learned about the facts and the violations of the law in the Taijimen case, they were all startled. They couldn't comprehend why the National Taxation Bureau didn't have to follow the court's decision after the Supreme Court determined in 2007 that Taijimen was not guilty and did not owe taxes. National Taxation Bureau continued to harass and torture Taijimen with tax demands 14 years after its acquittal. Before the 2007 Supreme Court's criminal decisions was issued, the then Deputy Finance Minister Wang Deshan and Wang Rongzhou all stated that since the Taijimen tax case was derived from the criminal case, the tax bills would be revoked if a not guilty criminal decisions would be issued. During the public hearing in the Legislative Yuan on June 17, 2010, the Ministry of Finance and the National Taxation Bureau of the Central Area agreed to withdraw the 1992 tax bill and to resolve the Taijimen tax case within 2 months.
However, the case has remained unresolved and dragged on until now. The government betrayed the people's trust, and it continues to do so to this day. The government even forced the auction and confiscated Taijiman's sacred land last year. Rogue finance and tax authorities have hijacked the whole country, including the president, the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch, undermining democracy and the rule of law. The human rights advocates and government representatives from various religious committees at the Earth Summit recognize the gravity of the Taijiman situations. Taiwan's democracy is at risk, as its government does not respect the rule of law and does not treat its citizens with honesty. Taiwan is in the midst of a crisis. We have been talking about religious freedom, but what exactly does that entail? This time, after attending the Earth Summit, I have a better understanding. In Dalai Lama's remarks at the summit's closing dinner, he stated that the basic principle of religious freedom is freedom of thought and conscience. While different religious groups may practice their values in various ways, they all convey the same message, the message of love, forgiveness, contentment, and self-discipline, as well as the ability to think about others, respect, and care for others. These are the religious beliefs' core values. So whether you are a theist or atheist, religious or non-religious, you should have the right to embrace these values. As the co-chair of the Earth Summit, Sam Brownback, stated, government's role is to protect that innate right of a person to select their own course of future for their soul. Taijiman's disciples agree with Dr. Hong's idea of purifying people's hearts and decided to follow him to practice Qigong and cultivate their hearts. We follow an ancient ritual and create the grandmaster-disciples relationship. To show our gratitude to and faith in our grandmaster, we voluntarily offer monetary gifts to him when we were officially accepted as a disciple and on major traditional holidays. However, the National Taxation Bureau deliberately misclassifies our monetary contributions as cram school tuition and levies taxes on land. This is a serious violation of the freedom of religion and belief. In fact, the Taijiman case is actually pretty straightforward and easy to solve. Both the legal theory and the evidence are very apparent. All that is required of the officials is for their consciences to be awakened. When an administrative disposition is found to be illegal, Taiwanese law expressly states that the administrative agency still can voluntarily withdraw the administrative disposition under Article 117 of the Administrative Procedure Act, even a final court decision is issued. Ms. Xiao Xiaoling's termination case set a precedent for implementing transitional justice in Taiwan. So Ms. Xiao alleged she was wrongfully terminated by the Taipei city government, but the court did not rule in favor of her. Despite the fact that she lost the case in court, the Taipei city government, based on the principle of due process, voluntarily withdrew its original terminations against her and reconvened the investigative team in compliance with the Article 117 of the Administrative Procedure Act. Soldier Su Yongshen is another case in point. He died while serving in the military. The court, however, agreed with the Ministry of National Defense and determined that Soldier Su died as a result of illness, and thus the state is not obligated to provide compensation. Following the widespread support and petitions, the Ministry of National Defense finally took the initiative to withdraw the original disposition and acknowledge that Su died while performing official duties and recompense Soldier Su's family. However, we did not see any tax officers in the Taijiman case who had followed the law and taken the initiative to revoke the unjustified tax bills with their conscience. I was only 7 years old when the Taijiman case occurred. Now I have been a lawyer practicing law for nearly 10 years. It is easy to reconcile and give up the pursuit of justice. It takes a lot of courage to persevere in fighting. But this is what my Shifu has always taught us, insisting on doing the right thing. As practitioners of self-betterment, we cannot allow any compromise. I want to inform President Tsai and all Taiwanese government officials that Taiwan can only become a true beacon of democracy if it solves problems for the people. Rectifying Taijiman's case is the first step, and errors can be immediately addressed under Article 117 of the Administrative Procedure Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. There's the easy way and there's the highway. Why did Taijimen Dizi chose to take the obviously complicated way of handling the injustice? Because it's a matter of principle. We certainly can't go against what our conscience is telling us and just settle. We are determined to keep fighting for justice down the road. And next, let's welcome another Taijimen Dizi, Iris Chen. She works as a sales representative in the business industry. Iris, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jenny. Hello, everyone. My name is Iris. I'm very honored to join today's seminar to commemorate the Day of Victims of Acts of Violence Based on Religion or Belief. Especially as a Taijimen Dizi, I have the first-hand experience of how a country uses their public power to harm people's rights to freedom of belief. When I was 1 year old, my parents brought me to Taijimen. Although I'm the only child at home, there are many kids of my age. To me, they're like my brothers and sisters that accompanied me during my childhood. My Shifu, Dr. Hong, is like my father who teaches me life wisdom and philosophy. I used to be a very shy person and get nervous easily, let alone give a speech like this right now. So Taijimen is a second home to me and has greatly changed my life. I have visited many countries with my Shifu to spread the message of love, peace, and conscience. Everyone we've met, every head of state of government, officials that we encountered, they all praised and admired Shifu's dedications, thinking that what we have achieved could bring positive impact to the world. However, a cultural group that is recognized by important people around the globe has been maliciously persecuted of human rights for 25 years long, and the abuse still lasts until now. Taijimen case is a fabricated case in the first place. Since inception in 1966, Taijimen Qigong Academy has never had any taxation issue. However, in 1996, Taiwanese government executed the political purge and a false accusation letter was sent to prosecutor Hou Kuan-ren. After receiving the letter, he forged a huge amount in the indictment without any evidence, claiming that it was fraud and asking the court to confiscate the money. On the other hand, he also claimed that the money was the tuition fee of cram school and operating revenue, and sent the case to the National Taxation Bureau. This has apparently violated the principle of double jeopardy. According to the due process of law, the National Taxation Bureau should investigate first and wait for the ruling of criminal court. On the contrary, the Bureau directly copied the false indictment produced by Prosecutor Hou and issued the illegal tax bills for 6 years. After 10 years of long criminal lawsuit procedure, the criminal court has ruled not guilty, no fraud, no tax evasion, and no violation of the Tax Collection Act. The monetary gifts that we gave to Shifu are non-taxable gifts. The court has proven Taijimen innocent, but the National Taxation Bureau still did not revoke the illegal tax bills, but only corrected the amount of 5 years to 0. Leaving the tax bill for 1992 to keep persecuting us, including illegally seized our academies for a long period of time. Last August, they even further auctioned off and nationalized our land properties, which were planned to build as a self-cultivation place. During the 25 years, the government has been deploying judicial and taxation measures to oppress people. The abuse of public power has not only hurt the freedom of belief of the Taijimen Dizi, but also seriously damaged the democracy and human rights in Taiwan. We are not guilty, but we have been forced to spend our lifetime and energy to constantly prove our innocence to the government. The result ended up like Sisyphus in Greek mythology, where he has to roll a giant boulder up to a steep hill. Before he could reach the top, the boulder will roll down to the bottom, and he has to repeat the process eternally. The painful and endless cycle is similar to the situation of Taijimen Dizi and Shifu, as we have done nothing wrong, but were tortured during the malfunctioned administrative remedies. This July, the important International Religious Freedom Summit was held in Washington, D.C. The co-chair of IRF Summit 2021, Sam Brownback, mentioned that freedom of religious and belief is a basic human right. Human race cannot thrive without it. Looking back at the history, many dynasties were prosperous because of religious freedom. People believed that the virtue and strength of belief can bring the society good impact and stability. Furthermore, Brownback emphasized that religious freedom should be guaranteed for everyone, everywhere, and all the time. The ICCPR and ICESCR also mentioned that everyone shall have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. The government should offer the basic human rights protection. Here, I want to call upon President Tsai Ing-wen and the government officials to carry out their promises of protecting Taiwanese human rights. As the National Human Rights Commission was established in 2020, President Tsai has publicly stated that no matter how the form of government transformed, human rights protection and international human rights standard alignment would be the ultimate goals for them. President of Control Yuan, Chen Zhu, also stressed that Commission is founded with the concept of conscience. The first step of safeguarding human rights is to practice and let people no longer suffer from the judicial and tax abuse. So I urge the officials to revoke Taijimen illegal tax bills immediately and return our land properties. Stop putting the interests above human rights so that Taiwanese people can truly have the democracy and freedom of belief. The whole society could progress and reach harmony. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Iris just gave her testimony of the Taijimen and Shifu that she has known growing up. She's spending her young life in fighting for Taijimen's justice because it's the right thing to do. I hope that Taiwan government heard her cry for justice for Taijimen and human rights for the Zhangmenren and all Taijimen Dizi. Next, Taijimen Dizi Yingfen Chen, who's a math teacher, will share her Taijimen experience. Welcome, Yingfen.
Thank you, Jenny. I am Yingfen. I'm a teacher, but I've never given up any students. I'm a mother, but I have opportunities to adjust myself and learn how to be a wise mother. I used to take life seriously, but now I often laugh. I used to work to make a lot of money, but now I make time to care about others after work. All of these changes are due to my Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi of Taijimen, and I'm fortunate to be a Dizi. It was Shifu who told me to improve my character from within and made my life extremely splendid and valuable. Last year, due to the pandemic, we are not able to back to Taiwan to reunite with our family in the United States. And this summer, we finally booked a ticket and prepared to go back to Taiwan. However, we learned that the world's largest and most important religious summit, the International Religious Summit of 2021, will be held on July 13 in Washington, D.C. My daughter's college was only an hour's drive from D.C., and I thought the 25-year Taijimen force case had not yet been correct. And we need to safeguard the justice of freedom of religious belief to express our heartfelt thoughts. And because our whole family are Taijimen Dizi, my daughter canceled the ticket and decided to participate in this event. When she spoke to Nadine, the commissioner of the International Commission for Religious Freedom, with other several Taijimen Dizi, She said that everyone should be respected for the freedom of religious belief. The Taijimen Force case happened in 1996. The Supreme Court ruled that Taijimen was not guilty and had no tax evasion. After complete judicial investigation, Taijimen was declared innocent. In 2010, the Ministry of Finance promised at the Legislative Yuan public hearing to revoke the reinforcement and resolve the Taijimen case within 2 months. It is still not resolved, and government officials lie to people. What's even more ridiculous is that in 2020, the Holy Land of the Taijimen was illegally accused of and was nationalized. On that day, our family was sitting in front of computer with bursting tears. We witnessed Taijimen being destroyed by the state's unchecked power. I feel that a few government officials who should be public servants were too afraid to come out and face the demands of the people. They act secretly and rudely. I'm heartbroken. Is this the hometown of Taiwan where I grew up? Are they not afraid of heaven's punishment? I know the Taijimen case from the beginning to the end. It is made out of nothing and was a fake case. I knew my Shifu spent his life to help the world. But in the United States, I can only keep watching the live broadcast, hoping that justice and fairness are returned. Return us our justice, I say. But injustice continues to happen, and it is extremely intolerable. After listening to the competition, Ms. Nadine deeply regret and wonderful if these officials were supervised. However, this is a simple problem. The few illegal officials did not own up to their mistakes when they did wrong. As parents, we usually teach our children to bravely admit mistakes. Who is a sage that never mistakes? But a few illegal officials not only refuse to admit the mistakes, but also rob the people of their property. How are we able to educate the next generation? Our family has been part of Taijimen for more than 28 years. Shifu always teach us to differ good from bad, return true from false, and right from wrong. When my daughter and I came along to the United States 16 years ago, we did not feel afraid because there is a Taijimen Academy in San Jose. There are lots of brothers and sisters taking care of each other. And my daughter also learned lots from Shifu's wisdom. Shifu's wisdom, that's her be healthy, cheerful, and confident, and teach her to help others and speak for justice. After she went to this important event, her perspective broadened, and she realized that many people in the world are perspective for the freedom of religious belief, and there are also many righteous people who are willing to bravely stand up for them and defend the truth. This is in the nature of human conscience. The Taijimen case is really simple. We are innocent. We are not guilty of fraud and tax evasion. The tax authority should admit errors, voluntarily revoke the illegal tax bill in accordance with Article 117 of the Administrative Procedure Law, and return the Holy Land of the Taijimen. although I live in the United States. And my parents and family are all in Taiwan, and I'm very worried about their safety. I sincerely hope that Taiwanese government can redress our case, return our beautiful land as soon as possible, and give the people of Taiwan true justice and democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hinfen. Everyone, if you recall the solo girl speaker who's in her early 20s in the Return to Washington, D.C. video, that's Hinfen's daughter, Gil. Gil gave up the rare opportunity to visit families in Taiwan during the pandemic and instead chose to voice for her second home, Taijimen in DC. I was also emotional when I saw her presentation online. So Taiwanese government, be alert. As you see, our younger generation will take over the mission in getting the justice redressed after the older generation retires. We will never give up. Many of our speakers mentioned conscience in their speeches today, which all Taijimen deeds value as the highest guidance of our act. Our Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, initiated the movement of an era of conscience in 2014 and has since took his deeds around the world to promote the culture of peace with love and conscience. The UN General Assembly declared April 5th the International Day of Conscience. I would like to invite you all to view the following video that shows the path of conscience movement. Please take a look.
Conscience is the origin of all beings, the fire of life, the source of goodness, and the pivot of peace. Since the COVID-19 crisis, the world has experienced the biggest challenge since World War II. We need the power of conscience more than ever to rebalance our world.
The day of 5th April, from now on,
The United Nations declared April 5th as the International Day of Conscience in July 2019. Since then, FOPAL has engaged in various events to promote this day and inspire conscience-driven actions. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, FOPAL has started to hold virtual events to emphasize the importance of conscience and work together with people around the world for a peaceful and conscience-guided world. Ever since the first International Day of Conscience, over 22 virtual events have been conducted in celebration of various United Nations days with an emphasis on conscience. These events have been live-streamed on IC Day's YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. To date, IC Day has attracted over 3.3 million views worldwide on its social media platforms. Not only have civil society organizations actively promoted the International Day of Conscience, the United Nations system also highlights its importance. The Executive Board of UNESCO, in its Decision 209-X29, requested the Director General to mark the International Day of Conscience to be held annually on the 5th of April at UNESCO headquarters, Paris, and in UNESCO field offices with the participation of member states and other partners. We are very glad to have many influential leaders joining our IC Day events over the past year, injecting powerful positive energy into our planet to stabilize the world. We are thankful to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres for sending us his video messages in support of our events. We look forward to a more successful year ahead. Let's continue to spread the message of conscience to every citizen and every corner of the world. With conscience comes a peaceful world. With happiness comes joyful families.
And we just celebrated the second International Day of Conscience this past April 5th. And we'd like to invite you all to stay tuned with our celebration for the third one next year. I'm very honored to be with you all on this virtual seminar today. We are allies in advocating for freedom of religion, conscience, or belief. And each time we speak up, we recruit more allies along the way and getting another step closer to the ideal world. While speaking about allies, we are very honored to have this guest who just joined us online, Mariam Ibrahim. Mariam, are you online right now?
Not yet.
Okay. We'll give her a couple more minutes because her experience, her story, you don't want to miss it. She came from Sudan, and we came across each other's path when we went to Washington, D.C. for the Earth Summit back in July. You want to hear the story of her own. You know, she would tell you her story and how sad it was, but you know, out of the sadness, she gained this strength and courage to advocate for her faith. We'll wait for her, but while we're waiting, I would like to show you the first video before the opening remarks that I gave, because you know, some of us joined late and missed that video. Taijimen, the truth, please.
About the Taijimen case, Taiwan Supreme Court found Taijimen not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. Illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Taijimen. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the offending authority's conscience? Where are justice and human rights? What is the truth about the Taijimen case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Taijimen not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Taijimen. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the offending authority's conscience? Where are justice and human rights? defend justice, human rights and peace.
In Taiwan, we at Bitter Winter saw at work Taliban of the National Tax Bureau or Taliban of the Administrative Enforcement Agency, 55-year-long persecution of a peaceful spiritual movement in a democratic country such as Taiwan. The Taijimen case is internationally exemplary and important, and yes, we plan to continue our campaign about it. Our voice will not be silenced until the voice of justice will speak and solve the case.
Thank you for the video. And we're very glad that Miriam Ibrahim made it. She is online with us right now, and she's the director of Global Mobilization, whom we met. We came across each other's path while we took the trip to Washington, D.C. for the Earth Summit back in July. And Miriam, can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you.
Welcome. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Would you mind sharing with us your story and also, how you relate to Taijimen tax case?
All right. Thank you for having me tonight, in the afternoon. So, yeah, I'm blessed to be here with you. And as I told Nono, the person who experienced persecution, or the survivor of religious persecution and abuse, I do understand and I do feel the pain of suffering and challenges of the Taijimen. So I'm originally from Sudan. I was sent to jail and sentenced to death by hanging for crime of apostasy. I actually also, all my property and my business that I built in Sudan was taken by the government from me. So, and I know many countries in Middle East and in Africa that live under certain laws. They persecute the religious minority. They are forced, some religious minority and groups, they are forced to pay jizya, some type of taxes that is illegal, but the government is actually something issued by some religious group against each other. So it isn't part of the country's constitution. And for the Taijimen, it's 40 years challenge, 24 years struggle and suffering and challenge. And I really applaud their outstanding for the right and their bravery to stand up for the right and to defend the rights as well. It's something really meaningful. It have a lot of meaning for me as someone who experienced persecution, and for many others is encouraging, outstanding for everyone who faced persecution and abuse. It is many, as I said, there's many religious minority around the world as being persecuted, are being forced to pay taxes and pay extra taxes for the government or for their communities. But leaders for a case like this and continuing advocacy for groups like Taijimen, it's mean so much for people like that. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing and the advocacy efforts you're putting on this case. It's so important, and it's very appreciated. Really, I met with you guys during the Arab Summit, and I don't have much acknowledge about the case, but when I learned that, I immediately felt like, yes, this is exactly what we have gone through, exactly what we experienced. And to meet group like that, people who coming out, speaking out and advocating for years, this is something supposed to be supported by international community, by government leaders and other countries that understood the value of religious freedom and human rights, because this is a human rights violation for the Taijiman, and it's crime committed by their own government. And it's against their country's constitution, because this is something normal for some countries like that, when they've been forced by the force of the bravery of other religious minority groups or cultural minorities. They made up on their own law just to mistreat these groups and to punish them for not even committing any crime. So that's my message, and you guys continue doing your work, and I do add my voice to yours, and I expect the others to do the same. So reach out to everybody, reach out to your the other people, you know, the other religious groups, the other advocacy group. We will listen. And as I always say, each of us have a gift to use to help others. Whoever have government position, you are in government position, advocacy field, and people in advocacy field. Let's use our voice to stand up with one another and to defend one another, because it's so important to do that. And especially as people or groups that are experience the same. It might be not, but it's all form of violence and violation of our rights when we face things like that with our own government, because the law is supposed to be made to protect the citizen, not to punish them and not to make their life hard. It's supposed to make their life easy and to protect them, you know. So that's my message. So I stand with you guys and add my voice to yours. And thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And you will win. Because you're working with faith. So faith is so important, because when we know ourselves, we know the truth, we speak the truth, we understand the truth, we defend the truth. Because in this case, the truth is that the Taiji men are innocent, and they are not harming anyone, even their government, they're not harming anyone in any way. So that's the truth.
Thank you. Here. Thank you so much, Mariam, for making it online and joining us, you know, at the very end, and which is a very just a perfect closure for our event today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And like you said, you know, at this time, I also like to extend our appreciation for the Earth International Religious Freedom Summit that provided this platform where people came from all over the world advocating for religious freedom and human rights and justices. You know, we had the opportunity to come across each other's path and be supported and be inspired by each other, and also to know that there are over the world, there are so many people like us being allies, standing together, fighting for a just cause.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so everyone, it's getting late, but not too late for our fourth seminar that will come up at 7 o'clock Pacific time. I always call it California time because, you know, we have this daylight savings time change and I always get confused. But, you know, to wrap up, this is, like I said, this is perfect, you know, along the way, we recruit more allies, you know, along our journey and get another step closer to the ideal world that everybody will benefit from. So here to say goodbye to you and stay tuned, you know, feel free to hop on at 7 o'clock. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.